game-changing discussions on the big ideas that shape our thinking. This is One2One.
Sam Olu Faleye is the founder and group CEO of Saglev Incorporated, Nigeria's first electric vehicle manufacturing company, pioneering clean mobility in West Africa. A doctor by training and health informatics researcher, he's a vocal advocate for sustainable transport in developing and emerging economies. Dr. Faleye, welcome to One2One.
Thanks, Dr. Shitabe, for having me. It's a pleasure.
A real pleasure. Right, so you are chairman and CEO,
Saglev Incorporated.
Yes. Delaware Incorporated.
Yes.
Electric vehicle company.
Yes.
Focused on distributing, assembling, and manufacturing electric vehicles for emerging markets.
Yes.
You oversee currently your Ikorodu assembly plant in Imota.
In Imota, Ikorodu.
Absolutely. The first plant, I believe, in sub-Saharan Africa dedicated solely to electric vehicle assembly.
Yes.
Wow, amazing. I happen to know, of course, as the whole world knows, that you trained originally as a medic. You're board certified in internal medicine.
Yes.
So, in EVs in Nigeria, I mean, it's not exactly oil and gas. Is it? And it's not FMCGs. How did you go about convincing investors, stakeholders?
Yes.
And what's the journey been like so far?
So the journey has been very interesting. When we started out, we actually made the choice not to continue working with VCs because, of course, the actual value of what an EV company in Nigeria is was not known, right? So we just went and started working with what we had.
Sure.
Now, this was a problem that was sort of automatically solved. If you remember, prior to, say, 2023, 1 liter of petrol in Nigeria would be about 180 naira a liter. In Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, you're talking the equivalent of 1,200 naira.
Sure.
So those economies were very serious about EVs.
Yes.
They still had all the problems we now have. But then, when the fuel subsidy was removed,
right,
Nigeria's economy was almost thrown into, as you remember, there was but again, at that point, internally, we had modeled that EVs would be viable right about 450 naira a liter. Well, it was already over 500, which told us, well, we were building an assembly plant in Ghana. We said, well, in the first place, this was the primary market, the biggest market. So we simply fast-tracked our plans. So
in
Nigeria. Now, going back, people do not realize how viable EVs are because we were buying very, very cheap gasoline, petrol. We didn't realize that. It's what we thought the price was.
Subsidy was a way of life.
Yes, it was our way of life. However, let me quickly point out a few data points that would drive the point home. So today, if you are a ride-hailing driver and you drive, say, a full-size, mid-size sedan for your business, you would spend 20 to 35,000 naira a day for petrol for your 180 to 200 kilometers you drive for that day. That's a lot of money. Now, if you're working 26 days a month and you're a full-time Uber driver, you simply cannot make a living because you have to make all that money, maintain your car,
sure,
and before you take any money home to your family. But if you're using an EV, it costs you no more than 5,000 naira. So the data is very, very stark, right?
5,000 naira.
5,000 naira.
Break that down.
Okay, let me break that down. So the cars that we would typically use for ride hailing are cars with a roughly 30 kilowatt hour battery. Now, if you live in Band A, Victoria Island, Ikoyi, you pay 225, right? So 225 times 30, you're talking 6,000-ish.
Yeah.
Now, we spent a lot of money actually paying Uber drivers collecting data for almost a year and a half.
I see.
So this is how we know this. And we know that the average driver doesn't drive more than 200 kilometers. That's this rare superhero Uber driver would do that. So that means your actual cost of power for that day is about 4,000 naira, no more than that. Now, the EV itself, there's no oil change. There's 50 to 60% less maintenance because you're talking 40 moving parts versus 4,000 internal combustion. The data is really stark. So that's where those numbers come from. By the time you add the cost of lower maintenance, power, you find out that if you bought a 15 million naira 15 million naira used car, or you bought an EV, by the 15th month, you spent the same amount of money.
Sure.
So the data is actually very stark. Now, worldwide, people already know that an internal combustion car is too expensive to use in ride-hailing. So to us, the message is very economic.
So there is, for us, what you're saying is that it's an economic argument, not so much a clean energy.
Yes, in Africa it is. Because if you really consider the fact that, look, climate change and greenhouse gases explosion really is primarily not Africa's fault.
Yeah.
Most of the greenhouse gas and was from Western development, but we are paying the price tremendously. I'll give you a quick one. Do you know at 56 years old, my baby brother has to tell me what season it is in Nigeria? I don't get it because I tell my brother, when is Hamatan coming? He starts laughing. He starts laughing.
It's a different pattern.
It's a different pattern. This is stark climate change, most of which was not our fault,
Of course. Yeah.
but we are paying for it.
Right, so I get it. One of the issues, of course, with failing to assemble in this country is that we've given up an entire value chain that would lead up to that sort of benefit. We have, indeed. However, I'd like to ask you a pointed question at this point. Of course, EVs are the future, but we are still speaking in the context of an environment in which the power supply is epileptic. And we know, of course, that there's a huge benefit to be had from encouraging Uber drivers, for example, to convert. But if there is an epileptic power supply, how do they get around this? How do we get around this as a community?
Okay, so this is probably the number one question. And thinking about it, I am a little surprised, but again, this is part of educating people. So I'll drop a few data points. Sometimes you want to be data driven. So when I first approached Dongfeng, they said, hey, we've been in Nigeria for 35 years. Dongfeng just supplied 4,000 trucks to Dangote, right? They've been here. They said, look, bro, they don't have electricity in Nigeria. It took me 8 visits to China to convince them, 8 in 1 year. But the truth is that 50% of Nigeria's urban dwelling population has access to a minimum of 15 hours of electricity, not daily, but weekly. Now let's go back and look at the basic. Our smallest, lowest capacity electric vehicle has a range of 320 kilometers on a single charge, which it does in alternating current 4 hours. 320. It'll charge 70% of that 320 in 2 hours. This is just something unique to battery technology. The fuller the battery is, the harder it is to charge. Okay. This is why we tell people you don't have to charge your car at 100% every day. But this is another thing people need to understand. Now, that means that vehicle, let's say it's for an Uber driver, example, that vehicle can go from Shangotedo in Lekki area to Oshodi 10 times or 5 return trips on that one charge and still have 70 kilometers left. So that's one part of the story. Now, assuming, say, you worked in a bank, maybe you drive, you would have to be a special person to drive more than 60 kilometers a day.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's say you drove 60 kilometers a day. You will still not have to charge that vehicle more than once a week.
A week, yeah.
It's just math.
Yes.
So when we first started this, people assume that it's like your phone. Because, I want to go out, I'm going to be out all night, so let me quickly charge my phone. No, a car is a totally different situation. So people don't realize just how much range, and that is our smallest product. We've got 500, 700 kilometers. Now we've got something called extended range EVs that allow you to go 1,200, 1,000 kilometers on a charge, along with a small amount of 50 liters of petrol in a generator. These are not hybrids, because all the generator does is just charging that battery. These are fully electric vehicles that have a range extender. Now, how many people actually travel more than 400 kilometers more than once a month? You'd be surprised. People go for Ileya, Easter, Christmas to their hometown.
Periodically.
Okay, so why do you need a car that has a range of more than 500 kilometers? So it's when you start getting into this discussion that people start realizing, oh my God. So I tell people that 50% of Nigeria's urban dwelling population are potentially electric vehicle customers. Okay, let that sink in. If you say that Nigeria's urban dwelling population is 40 to 50 million, let's say, okay, let's say we capture 10% of that market. That's 4 million.
5 million. Yeah.
5 million. Let's say it took us 5 years to hit that 10%, right? So you're talking 2% per annum. Do you know that Saglev cannot meet Nigeria's demand for electric vehicles?
Sure.
So people listen to me. All I'm saying is, guys, join us. Let's build an electric vehicle infrastructure, and let's assemble these cars. Let's not go out and go import cars. This is the future. These EVs, whether you like it or not, the data is already stock. We already have vehicles where, in fact, our plan is to make it impossible for you to make that decision to buy an internal combustion vehicle right now. If the government continues to leave the incentives, this will absolutely happen. But I tell people that you need to get in, because the government is not going to keep the zero tariffs forever. This is government choosing to do it this way because we don't have a mature tax system. In the United States, you can buy an EV and claim $7,500 in your taxes.
Straight away. Yeah.
It's a little more difficult because, we don't even know how many taxpayers are there in Nigeria. So this is the data. This is what we're looking at, is how many Nigerians can literally are already electric vehicle customers. It's actually stark.
Yeah, so the evidence is there, it's stark, the capacity is there. Yeah. Whether or not you reckon with an epileptic car supply or even traffic jams, which might be other argument that people may make. Yeah. But the capacity certainly is there, okay?
Capacity is there.
We spoke earlier about the fact that the argument here is economic. We are, and I might be putting words in your mouth here, we're not so concerned about the clean energy and the climate change aspect of things. And yes, of course, the West has polluted unrepentantly in the past, and it's their fault, as we agreed. But it still is. The environment still is our responsibility. Do you feel that you have a responsibility to push that agenda as well?
And perhaps maybe a poor choice of words, because no, we should be concerned. All I'm saying is that the primary argument for us is economic.
Economic, yes.
But think about this. And this is another thing I was just telling the minister who came. I said, ma'am, this is our report card. If this factory hits its target, 2,500 as it is installed a year for 5 years, we're talking, we avoid the use of 24 million liters of petrol in 5 years. The equivalent of carbon capture of 1 million trees. Okay? Now it starts to really hit home.
Sure.
The data is tremendous. I'm not saying that, all I'm saying is that, you know, when you say a side effect, if you give a chemotherapy and it kills the cancer, but then gives the person a neuropathy, you ask the patient, well, they say, sir, I'll deal with my neuropathy, but I'm okay that okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So the truth is that the economic is there.
Is primary.
But yes, now, the truth is that Africa has an opportunity to develop and industrialize in a climate conscious manner.
True.
Otherwise, we'll be in the same trouble that the West. And guess what? You see South Pacific islands that are now disappearing because of that. Problem is only going to get worse. Now, remember though, we also have a business capital of the world that is literally almost underwater. Lagos has a water and drainage problem.
Correct.
So we want to industrialize in such a way that we are climate conscious. So certainly a poor choice of words there. Yeah, it is important. All I'm saying is that right now, that economic argument is very, very, very poignant. It's
imperative.
Yeah.
All right, so Dr. Faleye, I'm glad to see that your climate change credentials are still intact.
Oh, yes, absolutely, 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 yeah.
So you alluded to this earlier. I mean, recently you've had a visit from the outgoing president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, as well as the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Duwale.
Yes.
Both paid a visit to your plant in Lagos, and about very significant, actually, I think.
Yes.
But I'd like to ask you, what signal would you hope that sort of presence, that visit, would send to the country, to consumers, to would-be clients, stakeholders, investors?
I think those visits were very pivotal. They represent validation on our part. They represent a period when we said, well, we've been doing this quietly, but now we needed to let the government, and as soon as things were ready, they immediately said, okay, Nigeria needs to see this. So it was very important for them to showcase that, look, somebody is doing this, therefore, clearly it's possible. It was also a signal to let the country know that this even exists. Can you imagine if 4 or 5 years ago, some guy from somewhere in the US showed up and your minister says, hey, in 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be assembling 16 different electric vehicle cars in Nigeria. You'd be,
So go back to Delaware.
Say, go back to Delaware. So we chose to do this and then go back, but also have to be fair to the minister because our primary agency that regulates automotive manufacturing is the NADDC. It's right a parastatal under her. So without the NADDC, we would never have been able to do this from 5 years ago. So it's not like she woke up one day and said, okay, now, no. They've been involved. They've been helping us. They've been encouraging. They've been inspecting us. By the way, we are a recognized manufacturer in Nigeria. They gave us that certificate along with the federal ministry. So it was important for them to also show the government. I tell people, you can't criticize government just because you feel like. Once in a while, the government will do things right. And as a citizen, you need to recognize it and encourage them to do more things right. This is something positive that the NADDC has done. They didn't say, hey, you from, get lost. They didn't do that. They encouraged us. They welcomed us. They told us, hey, this is the policy. This is what you need. We sought advice. They inspected us. They did everything they were supposed to do. And as a result, we came out on the other end successful, right? That is a positive. So again, that was pivotal. And it's pivotal to showcase that this is possible. I think we've been through such a rough patch as an economy, as a country, that there's a lot of losing hopelessness. But you can choose to look at the positives or look at the negatives. And the negatives will only depress you and make you less successful. So pick up the positives and look at them. Yeah. If you want to be in business and you're not going to be satisfied with the 3-5% growth per annum, come to Africa. This is where you're going to find the fastest growing middle class. Lagos is virtually not recognizable for me because in 1991, I don't see this many restaurants. I don't see this many social. I don't even see tourism as anything that happened in 91. So, again, those are some of the lessons I've picked up.
Okay, good. I'd like to press in on the point. Of course, very important to push the message about EVs. We've talked a lot in this conversation about why we should. Lagos, of course, as you've mentioned, has a growing middle class, but it also has quite an impoverished underclass. How do you feel that in your position, with all of the knowledge you have about the industry, how can we make EVs more affordable for the average person? Currently, it may well be out of reach, but how do we go about solving that problem so they derive all of these benefits we've been talking about so far?
So you've asked a very tough question, but a few things come to mind. The first thing is that the EV itself is an opportunity to employ people. So there's that opportunity. But when I think about the EV, I like to think of the EV ecosystem because the electric vehicle itself is probably 20% of that. So here we go. The EV, you need people who are going to charge EVs. That means you need to train people who are going to install. Of course, yeah. You need people who are going to man the charging stations. You need people who are going to teach other people how to install that, how to even manufacture. So now you're going into education. On top of this, you now have entrepreneurs who are going to start charging centers. Do you know that today, one of the fastest growing businesses in our ecosystem is actually electric charging? That already tells you that people understand where things are going. It's electric mobility. Today, the fastest growing part of our ecosystem is in two-wheelers and three-wheelers. We just as a company have chosen to manufacture the battery electric vehicle for four-wheeled cars.
You're talking about the Keke.
Yes, that's the huge, because that is so easy to implement, it's so reproducible, and it's so cost effective. Now think about how that is going to influence produce transportation in the rural areas. A keke, or you can, you haven't even touched the manufacturing of those kekes. And so again, I like to talk about this in terms of the EV ecosystem. It turns out that electric vehicle ecosystem is actually good for the economy and good for jobs. So the truth is that how can you move people higher in terms of their socioeconomic status is jobs and give them ability to afford more. The EV ecosystem, just by default, brings all that because there are jobs.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. Now, think about it. Look at these things they call koropes, these small little cars. Can you imagine if you're able to get there is a technology called low velocity EVs. These are electric vehicles that fall in the place between the EVs and, the kekes. Therefore, their vehicles lower. Now, in the first place, why would you be in Lagos and be dreaming of going more than 70 kilometers an hour? Right? You're not going to go faster than that anyway. So can you imagine if you're able to start converting those koropes to a low velocity EV?
I know of a company that's focusing on
Exactly.
that. Exactly. And to me, that's a way of instantly democratizing the uptake of EVs.
Yes.
Why isn't Saglev thinking about that?
Well, the truth is that, we really started doing this. We felt like our key competency was in the actual cars. First of all, before we even thought about this, there were people who were already in Africa generally, in the 2 and 3 wheeler space. You've heard of Spyro, Max E. Those guys already have that area, and they were doing a good job. So there was no sense in us reproducing. That is one arm. But at the end of the day, there is 750,000 used cars coming into this country every year. And we just felt, well, listen, this is the difficult part. What we do is the hardest part, because it's technically you need a partner that would back you up. It's much more expensive to do what we're doing. So we just thought, okay, look, everybody can attack the 2 and 3 wheeler. This is our area, and we're going to attack it. Of course, it came with more doubt because people said, you know how much money it's going to cost you. But we just kept until we arrived at, where we are today. So that's just it, But there are people who are doing a fantastic job in the 2 and 3, EMVC. It's another company that comes to mind, doing a fantastic job. So, again, it's just what we thought was our key competency is the actual 4-wheeler battery electric vehicle space. Yeah.
And I like the fact that you speak in terms of the EV ecosystem. And no doubt, so you've made the point that it's potentially a boost for the economy if we can get that right. And we're already beginning to talk about the various sections that connect into it. You may not be focused on the koropes and core, but there are those who do it.
Yeah.
But you're doing the heavy lifting on the 4-wheeler.
In a sense,
In a sense, I get that. It's been a most exhilarating conversation. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fantastic.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.